Descent into Darkness, Season 2, A Call of Cthulhu campaign. Welcome back to Death Watch's Call of Cthulhu campaign. My name is Travis, and I'll be your keeper today. This is episode 22, I believe. And today I just have John and Justin with me, so we're gonna maybe go on a little side trek here. But before we get into that, let's get an introduction from our two investigators.
All right, I'm Justin. I'm playing Lance Monroe, who is still shaking off the after effects of a harrowing night trying to escape a dark hunter, and is looking to find out if Lamar has any more information.
I'm John, playing James Whitmire, who has become, or is becoming, a little obsessed with this dream world that he's starting to explore.
All right, so our in-universe time is June 17th, just after breakfast. I believe that's right. Is that what you guys have, the 17th, for those who have been keeping track?
Yep.
Yes.
And Monroe and Dr. Andrews had just left the hospital where you were visiting James Clark, and Dr. Andrews said he had a meeting arranged and he wished you well. And Mr. Monroe, you had planned to go drop in on Lamar and see if he had that list together where the lisping man with the odd shadow had been purchasing items on the regular. So that's where we will begin. You've made your way across town. You're standing outside of Orion's Spiritual Goods, and you go in and hear the telltale Near Eastern chime as you enter, and there you see Lamar standing behind the counter, dutifully awaiting a customer. Now, he normally pales when somebody walks in, but he's gotten used to your drop-in visits, and he takes it calmly. Lamar has sort of a small smile on his face, and he's like, Mr. Monroe, good morning. How are you doing?
Good morning. Still a little worse for wear. My ribs are still bothering me after a bad incident, but on the whole, I'd consider myself in good form. How about yourself?
I'm doing well. The ear's knitting itself quite nicely. Of course, it'll be deformed from now on, but what can you do? You say your ribs are injured. What happened?
Oh, just an incident with a car and me stepping out into traffic without paying attention.
Oh, well, thank God you didn't suffer a worse injury.
Oh, don't I know it?
Well, I have that list we're interested in. If you wanted to take a look, I wrote it down right here, and he slides a paper across the counter.
Thank you very much for doing this for me, Lamar.
No issue whatsoever. So, he just has a kind of bullet point list of items, and he's talking while you're reading over it. He says, yeah, they're fairly standard items, ceremonial linens, beeswax, perfumes, frankincense, oils, natron. There were a few odd ones. He asked for extract from yellow lotus, which I found that nobody really keeps that in stock, because it hasn't come up in any of the occult stuff I'm aware of, so I had to prepare it myself. And one odd item he asked for was called Glund fluid, which I had no idea what it was or where to find it. Have you heard of it?
Have I?
You can give me a Cthulhu Mythos roll.
All right. No. I'd consider burning some luck, but that's a little more than I want to.
You may also give me an archaeology roll.
That I have much higher. Oh, or not.
Well, you're not...
Push it.
Yeah. I mean, that's an option. Or luck.
Yeah, I'll go ahead and try and push it. I'm guessing if I fail, then I'll completely misidentify it.
We'll do something a little bit different. We'll be... Like, maybe there's something about this Glund fluid, so we'll have you kind of fail forward, where if you fail the push, you're going to have a realization about what this Glund fluid is, and maybe a little bit of sand loss is on the line.
Okay. Luck be with me. Okay.
All right.
Yeah.
Succeeded the push.
You can determine that by this list of items, it seems to you as though he's performing, or he's at least gathering the items required for your standard Egyptian-style mummification process.
Okay.
Although this still leaves Glund fluid as a kind of a mystery to you, but perhaps it was some esoteric item that you never came across because Egyptian studies were only part of your education.
Okay.
Yeah, so there you have it, Mr. Monroe. Does that illuminate anything for you?
I'll say, well, from the research that I've done, that seems like they're gathering the items for a mummification of some sort.
Is that?
Though I'm still unsure on what Glund fluid is or where to find it.
Yeah, I did a little bit of searching at the library, but I'm afraid nothing came up. Now, mummifications, that doesn't sound like it's legal. I'm sure there are stipulations on how one must be buried these days. Of course, I'm not an undertaker. I don't really know that, but...
Yes, I'm rather unsure myself, but I assume that it can't be too much different than the general embalming that is general practice these days. Perhaps just slightly different.
Perhaps. I can only speculate. But yeah, like I said, every, maybe 3 or 4 months he'll come in and get the same allotment. And I wonder what else he could be using it for, because it doesn't seem likely that this man... do you know this man, his occupation?
We're acquaintances and have run in some of the same circles. So we've spoken a time or two. I wouldn't call him a friend of any sorts, but he has broadened my horizons, as it were.
Oh, interesting. Perhaps you shall have to give us an introduction.
Well, I'm sure that if he decides to speak to you on some of those matters, that he will when he comes in next.
Of course, but I was more speaking to, breaking past the customer relationship. That's can be very cold. People don't often move beyond that, I have found.
Very true. Although he has shown interest in those frog statues, so if you ask him questions about it, that may open up a discussion that broaches the subject for you.
Well, I shall have to remember that when next I see him. Speaking of which, you had mentioned that there were some strange dreams associated with the statue, and I think I had one, but I'm not certain. It's very vague. Something about a windmill, but beyond that, I can't say much more.
Yes, that's actually the exact dream that everyone seems to share. And past the windmill is what is past the windmill? Have you explored in the dream at all?
Well, I guess I'll just have to keep dreaming. Do you have any advice? I have heard, although not studied it deeply, this idea of lucid dreaming. I don't quite grasp the concept, but I do have the basics, some ability to control your dream. Have you heard of such?
I've heard some basic understanding of it, but I'm afraid that I haven't been able to put it into practice while in that dream. I attempted it, but it didn't seem to work for me. So I've spent my nights, whenever I have those dreams, just exploring the archaeological ruins underneath the mound.
Well, that would be fascinating. I will keep a lookout. Maybe I'll begin a dream journal. A habit I fell out of. I used to do it through my college years, but not so much lately. Will there be anything else today, Monroe?
Well, you mentioned lucid dreaming. Do you happen to have any resources on it that are in your shop?
I have a few books on, or mostly psychological texts, but you can take a look at them.
Of course, yes.
Here, let's take a walk over. So he just, where you got the Great Grimoire the other day. This pretty much just one side of the store where the wall is books, and he kind of, with his index finger, he's going across the rows, and he points out to one, and he hands you a book. Here. Yeah, so this would be a relatively recent publication within the last 20 years anyways. So this is Sigmund Freud's The Interpretation of Dreams. He just asks if you have read much about him.
I'm afraid I have not. Do I have any knowledge of Sigmund Freud?
That would, you could do an extreme education role, but it would primarily fall under the psychoanalysis skill.
Okay, yeah, my psychoanalysis is at a 1, so we'll try the extreme education, see if I manage to overhear anything in passing. I overheard something in passing, I guess.
Yeah, so there is a section, although maybe not in real life, but anyhow, in this universe, there's a section that speaks a little bit about the practical steps one must take to attempt lucid dreaming and how that might be achieved. So this can be things like, little physical reminders that would perhaps make it into the dream state, whether that be like a metronome in your room or, something you could key on to alert you to the fact that you're actually dreaming, those sorts of things. And all very interesting. And there are several different methods that you could try to begin lucid dreaming.
Okay. So yeah, I'll happily take that.
So yeah, he says, well, are you going to pick anything else up today?
Unless you have any other things you suggest on lucid dreaming, then I believe that this would be it.
Okay. So he rings you up. We'll say it's about $8 for this particular tome.
Okay. That's within my spending limit.
Okay.
If
And
that works.
we will fade on you there at the Orion's spiritual goods and hop over to Whitmire, who had wanted to go check on the Great Knights. Yeah, so you drive around the part of town where these kids normally hang out, and at this time of day you do see Bill standing on the corner with those burlap bags stuffed with the latest edition of the Boston Globe, and he's hawking the papers on the corner, shoot out at Key's Wharf, read all about it. 4 men dead,
Right.
1 arrested.
I'll pull up on the side and head over to him and tell him that I'll take a paper.
Okay. Yeah, it's very small amount of money, almost certain to come in under anyone, even a beggar's daily spending limit. And like, hey, how'd the operation go?
Well, it didn't turn out as planned, but it was successful. As I was actually coming to make sure you guys are all doing all right.
Yeah, it was kind of boring over there where we were stationed. We didn't really see anything that made sense to us, We didn't see the guys you were talking about, but so he's all right, the guy you were looking for?
Well, I wouldn't say all right, but he's alive, and that's what matters.
And
As I'm sure that he'll bounce back.
his voice kind of pitches low. Hey, Keys Wharf, I remember you mentioned it as one of the spots. You have something to do with this? You shoot up all those guys?
I actually missed the whole thing, as by the time that I heard about what was going on, everything was over. I'm not quite sure what happened, but that's part of what I'm trying to piece together, as I know that the doctor got out, as I know that he's missing some portions of his arms or arm that he shouldn't be, at least the skin.
Oh. An expression crosses his face where he seems somewhat horrified, but also disappointed to have missed it in person. He's like, well, I guess the only thing maybe we saw was some guy, shoot us along. He spoke French first. I think it was French, kind of sounded that way. At the location we were at.
Interrupt him and start describing that the French guy that, because there was one French in the in Lance's shop, right?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, kind of hanging
As I'll
back.
describe him.
Yeah, I think that was him. I think he was watching the place too.
Yeah, I think those guys were involved somehow. You got to be careful with those guys. They're even more dangerous than, well, I would say they're more dangerous than old Sweetwater himself.
Oh, well, that's pretty dangerous. So, well, when's the next mission? What are we going to do next? We're almost done peddling papers for the day, so we'll be ready to go.
Well, as there's some... I was looking for someone to keep an eye out while I did some sleep research, as it's kind of hard to explain, but I think I found a way to somewhat control my dreams.
Are you pulling my leg right now?
Well, even if I am, you guys are still going to get paid, as long as you're up to the task.
Right, I won't ask any more questions then. More cigarettes? is, hopefully.
What do I have left in the back there?
I think you only gave
Didn't
him
I
one
kept
carton, right?
Okay. Yeah, I'll pay you guys 2 cartons for for a few days
You
of
got it.
just watching out.
Of course, same thing. We do have to be home, before the street lights come on. Mom says kids like us just disappear off the street sometimes. So,
Yeah, that shouldn't be any problem. As I want to. I was hoping to explore the possibility of trying to do this during the day and seeing if there's any difference.
Okay, just give us an address, and like I said, it'll be about an hour before we're done. I'll grab my brothers and we'll ride wherever.
So I'll give him one of the stash houses addresses.
Okay. All right. He says, well, okay, we'll be there just after noon, just after lunch, if that works for you.
Yeah. As the other 2 are doing all right too?
Yeah. Yeah, they're doing good. They just,
Okay.
Work different corners with the paper. But hey, I got to get back to it. They drive around sometimes and make sure we're doing our job. If they don't, if we catch us not doing it, they dock our pay.
As I'll flip him like 5 cents and tell him that I appreciate the paper.
Thanks, Jimmy. We'll see you later.
I'll wave and head back to the car to go and see if Monroe's back at his shop.
Okay. So yeah, Mr. Monroe, you do find in this healing process that you become exhausted pretty quickly. The manner in which you find you're often holding yourself as you move around, strains muscles that you don't ordinarily use. And so you're flagging somewhat. What's next for you?
Well, I was a little bit concerned that Johann didn't show up to breakfast, so after checking in on Lamar, I'd probably head back to my shop and see if he had sent a telegram, and if not, then send out a telegram to his hotel room or wherever he was staying in town.
Okay. So yeah, you head back to your shop, and you're in the midst of checking your telegrams, which of course you have like your stuff that has to do with your business, which those come in every now and then, confirmations and orders, things like that. And you have one from Finn McCracken that says he wasn't able to track down Johann last night, but he'll get back to it today. And that came in just after you left, you realize. You also have a tap at the door, and Anita, is that her name?
Yeah.
I think so.
Is either Anita or Annette, I can't remember what.
He says, hey, boss, there's a delivery down here you need to sign for.
A delivery? Okay.
So yeah, when you go down, you see that there is 2 men with a truck, and there's a big pine box in the back, and they're just sort of standing around, looking bored in those moments when they're not actively working, as workers do. But they kind of stand up straighter when you and Anita approach, and they say,
Okay.
we just need your signature.
All right. Which delivery is this?
I don't know. They just said it was going to this address, and you're Mr. Monroe, correct?
Yes. Who sent it?
Have that information. It just says museum goods for Mr. Monroe.
Huh. Okay. Well, I guess I'll have to take a look at it myself.
Well, where do you want us
Don't
to
you
put
remember?
And I'll kind of glance at Anita and say, do you remember having a shipment here? As I sign.
it? I didn't think anything was coming in today.
Well, perhaps some of the flyers that I sent out have convinced some people to send some items on their own. I'm a little bit eager to find out what has serendipitously fallen into our laps.
Oh, yeah, that would be interesting. So where are we setting it down?
Gentlemen, yes, I have a storeroom back here that I use to categorize and lay out all of my items that would be perfect for this.
Okay. So yeah, they start muscling it, toward your storeroom. And Mr. Whitmire, you can come in at any time you like. But they get it settled, and it's about, 8 feet long, pretty bulky box, but apparently not terribly heavy. So,
and as they finish up, I'll usher them out of the back room and say, and feel free, gentlemen, to take a look around my museum, free of charge, of course. Thank you for your help.
So as he's doing that is when I'll show up, coming in the opposite direction.
Okay.
So that when he turns around, I'm already standing next to the box. And when I notice that he notices me, I'll say, "Oh, your Big Pine box came in, huh? Got it from that Big Pine box store?" I'll look around at all the other boxes meaningfully.
I'll ask him, did you happen to send this?
No, but I mean, it kind of fits, and I'll kind of gesture to the other large pine boxes that other items had been delivered in.
Well,
You want some help opening it up, though? I'm kind of curious to see what you got.
Actually, with my ribs in the state they're in, I would be most grateful for any assistance in cracking this box open.
All right, I'll pull out that 38 and start blasting. No, I'll
say, whoa! I have
go
a pry
find
bar.
a crowbar.
I have a pry bar just for these cases. You don't need to resort to those extreme measures.
Yeah, I'll go find the crowbar, the pry bar, and start opening the ends, going around and loosening the corners.
Okay. Yeah, when you do so and you get some of it pried off, there's a hiss of the intake of air. But other than that, nothing else happens. A little musty smelling after you get it off. And you see inside is actually it's looks like it's made of brass. So now that you see it there, you're wondering how just the two men carried it, because it seems like it would be pretty heavy, but it looks like an honest to ghost sort of Egyptian, where they enshrine the mummies. And you can give an appraise roll or an archaeology roll. There we go. Either of you.
All right.
Yeah, I don't think that was going to happen.
Well, can I make both?
It's what's the word? They're
One or the
combined
other?
roll, so you pick your best odds.
Okay. So archaeology. That is just, so no.
Well, you think that it almost certainly must be a not an authentic mummy, basically, and thus not actually like a bronze or brass or whatever container. It just must be some recreation. But on top of the container of what appears to be like an ancient pharaoh or something like that is a note that just says, when you unfold it, in regards to your museum and your future success, but there's no signature to it.
All right. So I imagine that I was the one that had grabbed that note, so I'll kind of shrug and hand it over to him. So that's one hell of a donation.
Yes.
Was there been anybody that's said they were going to be sending something like this?
No, but it is good to see that my reputation for legitimacy is beginning to spread, and these kinds of donations are always a welcome addition. Could you help me take it out of the box, and perhaps we can lay it out on a table and see what all it entails?
Yeah, I can give you a hand with that. So, and if he had like any type of hand truck or anything like that, I don't know if those are around at this point, but
Yeah, I'm sure that they are, and I'm sure that you would have one for moving heavier pieces.
Yeah.
all right. I'll go get it and start to position it, but also tell him that the reason why I'd stopped by is you know a few different things, and I was wondering, what could you tell me about cults that I don't even know what the right word for it is, but that were big into dreaming?
So is this an occult roll, Travis, or?
For cults that were big into dreaming.
Yeah, that had something to do with dreaming.
Yeah, there's a few different ones. You could do occult or anthropology. Yeah, we'll stick with those. So go ahead with occult if you'd like.
Okay.
Yeah, so the problem in regards to dreams is that so many cults or so many cultures or societies spoke about dreams that it's tough to narrow down, something more specific. because dream experience is a big part of the shamanic experience. It plays into different cultures around the world. So, like, what specifically were you wanting to know about them, Whitmire?
Well, which ones come to mind, and then I'll start to describe the forest as well that I'd encountered the last couple times, and this village. And I apologize. I had the name of that.
Ulthar was the name of the town that was in the note.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'll mention that as well, and ask him if he's ever come across a cult or a gathering or any reference to that.
All right.
So the terms he mentioned specifically would fall under Cthulhu mythos or the dream lore skill. So unless you want to try that again, you can only speak broadly to what cultures say about dreams, which there might be something useful. For example, that certain Native American tribes believed that death was actually waking up from a dream that you were currently in. Certain philosophies they think of the world, as a material world that has given rise to consciousness, but perhaps there's the, photonegative inverse of that, where perhaps there is a material world that was birthed from consciousness rather than, how it's traditionally thought of on Earth, where, evolution and whatnot gave rise to sentience. Maybe there's like
Give
an
a shot at the Cthulhu mythos. Nope.
That was pretty close, man.
It was pretty close, but I'll pontificate at length on the various cultures and what dreams meant to them and stuff that I remember from my archaeology classes and everything I know from the occult.
Yeah, so that ranges, from, alternate lives or past lives. That's what dreams are. That experience there. The idea of collective unconscious is, I think, in its very, very young stage. So I don't know if people are speaking about it broadly, but that could be, humans when they go to sleep and dream, their minds are wired into, some uber sentience out there, and that's what you connect to when you're in the dream state. So some of that kind of jives with your experience, though, Mr. Whitmire, particularly this notion of a shared state, of a locale made up of basically people's dreams. Like if you had a bunch of people all dreaming about the same thing, and you spend a third of your life in this place, doesn't that make it at least as real as certain other things, one might argue? But unfortunately, just nothing too specific when it comes to Ulthar or the Enchanted Wood. Yeah, I guess I'll leave it at that.
Okay. So, yeah, I figure we're having this conversation as I'm arranging this
it would be
sarcophagus
a
for him.
Yeah. That whatever it's made of, the metal must be pretty light, so it kind of has the appearance of bronze or brass, but certainly isn't that because it's not that heavy. You're able to manage with that hand cart to move it on its own and stand it upright or lean it against the wall or whatever. And you can see it's hinged, so it opens, as these do, where they store the body inside.
Does a mummy come lurching out?
Only if you open it.
Well, I thought that it was opening.
Oh, you were going to open it? Yeah.
No, I thought it was opening.
Not on its own. No, not
okay.
on its own.
No, once we get it in a place where we can really examine it well, then I would try and open it.
Yeah, Whitmire, you get the sense just from moving it around that it's probably empty. Like when your hand touches it, it has that sound of a hollowness to it.
Okay.
Being on it in any way, but
well, I will make mention to it and just say it's a lot lighter than it looks. It doesn't seem like they sent you the body with it, though.
Well, I hope not.
I'm sure that you could use a few more dead things around here.
Well, they're perfectly fine as long as they are antique artifacts, but if they were to send in a recent mummified body and along with this, and I'm afraid the authorities would have my license.
I thought that these had dead guys in them normally, though.
Well, I'm not sure if this is a legitimate one. It appears to be more of a replication. from what I can tell.
As I'll look around it for any other notes. Say maybe someone's trying to swindle you here.
Well, it was free of charge, so I don't know how swindling me could have entered the picture.
As I'll just I'll stop and look up and just stare at him for a second, and then go back to doing that. So one of those looks where it, you know that she said something that was just there's nothing, nothing's free.
Yeah.
You're gonna pay one way or another. So,
all right. So give me, as you're sort of looking over the outside of it, give me a hard spot hidden roll.
Just him or both of us?
You could throw one out there too.
all you need is me.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're kind of looking, for signs of what you might determine to be more, modern fabrications, those sorts of things, like machining, that sort of stuff. But you don't see any of that, but you do see some symbols kind of along one of the hinges. And roll your intelligence for me.
Nice.
So you remember these symbols. You remember them on a safe sub-level of Wilbur Theater.
So I'll make mention of that. As I'll reach out and touch him and just say I've seen these before.
Once he points them out to me, can I decipher them at all?
No, they don't appear to be in a language that you can read, but you have both seen these sorts of things a number of times, and you had succeeded on your Cthulhu Mythos roll, Whitmire, when you first saw the safe, so you knew that these belonged to Aklo.
Yeah, and that's louder. I'll state that that's what this is. These are Aklo symbols or runes.
Yeah,
As,
what their purpose is.
I've seen them. They were on a safe in the old theater. It was the weirdest thing. I heard people on the other side of this door, and when I opened it, and it sounded like they were getting further away, so I thought it was a hallway. When I opened the door, it was a room, and all that was inside was a safe that was closed, but it had these symbols on it. But I know that there was someone in there before. It makes me think that either this is another entrance or an exit, though.
Well, if it is an entrance, perhaps one of us should try opening the door, as it were. I'll begin sizing up to see if one of us could fit inside of it.
Yeah, you think so.
Well, and this isn't exactly what I thought I'd be doing with my day here. And I'll take a look at my pocket watch. And what time is it right now?
So it's about lunchtime.
Okay. So I'll tell Monroe, as interesting as this is, and I do want to continue exploring it, I'd actually come over to see if you wouldn't mind coming over to one of my safe houses. I've got some lookouts in case anything happens, but I was hoping that you could help me explore this the dream that I told you about from the other day.
Yes.
And I have this book that talks about all different cults or religions, and I was hoping that to find something more in there, but I get the feeling that I'm not safe while I'm sleeping, as I was hoping that you wouldn't mind coming over and not just watching over, but maybe help me do something. There's something there.
Well, I have been meaning to try out that Dream Castle tobacco that you have all tried, and see if I have the same type of dream. I figure that we might as well try it at the same time. Although having someone to watch over me as I do would definitely ease my mind, especially after the hunter attack last night.
It was all you told us about that at breakfast, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I was going to say, I thought I remember hearing about it, but I couldn't remember if it was from you or not. I'll wholeheartedly agree and say that this and I'll point to the that sarcophagus and say, this is probably better left to, later today or tomorrow. But I think I've still got a can of that, or the can of Dream Castle out in the trunk. So,
Before we go, if this does happen to be a gate, would you mind, just as a matter of precaution, would you mind helping me perhaps put some chains around it to ensure that it doesn't open while I'm gone?
yeah, that's no problem. What do you have in here for chains? Do you have chains in here?
I may not have...
Or I know you have rope, at least, right?
Yeah, I'm sure I'll have rope and probably some straps or of some sort that are used to tie things down or hang things up. And
do you want to hoist it as far up as we can get it and put some dangerous objects underneath, so if somebody actually tries to step through and does manage to get the face open, that they plummet to a horrible accident and or their death?
Just on the off chance that one of us happens to be the one that steps through it, I'd rather not.
Always taking the fun out of things, and I'll start tugging on ropes to start to tie it up. I do like the idea of hoisting it, at least, as you can never be too careful. Whatever pops through that, whether it's you, me, or something else, as that may give you the critical moments needed to survive if they're falling even, 3 to 5 feet.
Well, we could perhaps prop it up on a table, but I don't know if taking the time to rig something to hang it from the ceiling is really worthwhile.
I thought you already had stuff like that.
You could get it rigged up in a way that it would make it difficult if somebody were to somehow travel out of one end. It would be difficult for them to get out of it one way or the other.
Yeah. We
don't have to belabor the point too much. We can just assume you come up with some mechanism. But yeah, I would assume you do have the ability to set up, pulley systems so that you can hoist things, because occasionally you get very big pieces, that you want suspended in some way. So it is a possibility, and we'll assume that it's done in some fashion, and we can move on to the next thing.
Sounds good.
So, yeah, I'll once it's done to satisfaction, just hop in the car and head over to the address that I gave to the knights.
Oh, okay. All right. Yeah. So, you guys arrive there, which this particular bolt hole is in more of an industrial part of South Boston, and it's happens to be in a little outbuilding on a particularly unused factory of some kind that's currently waiting to be leased. And a few guys who actually own the property that have let you use it from time to time. So that's where you're at. That's where you arrive, is at this outbuilding, which was also the address you gave to the Great Knights. And when you pull up in your car, you see them sort of languishing around the gate. One's throwing stones into a rusty coffee tin on the pavement there.
All right. So yeah, I'll pull up and go and open the gate.
Okay.
And tell them they can either hop in or follow, but we're going up to this old factory up here.
All right. So they get in and get in the car with you, and you drive up to that outbuilding, which is empty except for a few amenities that you like to keep in these places if you have to lay low for extended amount of time. So you got some water stored there and something that keeps well to eat.
I'm going to explain that as well as we're pulling up. As just kind of give them the rundown, is that nobody should be out here at all. So if you guys see anybody, is that just know that nobody comes here. So if you see anybody, that's come in and get me or Lance.
All right, you got it. We'll be out here watching.
All right, and then when we pull up to the building, I'll open the trunk and give them the 2 cartons, then grab that Dream Castle as well.
Yeah, they take the cartons and you see them setting up in various places to keep an eye on things. And Bill is smoking his cigarettes like a guy who has too many cigarettes. So you can see him light 2 up at once, and he's
is alternating
right
one to the other. Yeah.
Yeah, so they're set up. The other one, Ethan, he's kind of more bookish and timid. He has his little journal that he started scrawling in. The only one who doesn't really seem to participate in watching is Simon, who was took a head injury, so he's they put him somewhere out of sight and gets a little piece of chalk out and starts drawing like a hopscotch thing, and he silently starts doing that. But so yeah, you guys have a quiet place in which to experiment here. So, Whitmire, if you want to ensure success, from your attempt the night before that you weren't certain that you would get into this dreamland without the use of the tobacco. Like the tobacco seemed to put you there against your will. I mean, it just happened. You guys put that together. But on the second night, you didn't try it. And mechanically, we had a skill roll. So if you rely on your skill to get you back into this place, there's a possibility you will not here. So perhaps the tobacco would be the most assured method to get there.
So
Yeah, that's what I was going to suggest too, is rather than, like, as much as I want to, and I probably will just roll it for fun.
So on the
I've
way
made it.
on the way over from my museum to here, I wanted to be flipping through the part on lucid dreaming from the book I picked up from Lamar.
Okay.
And once we get to his place, I'll see if I can put a few of those things into practice.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I also I'll bring in that book that I had on all the different cults, or which one was that?
You had the book called Nameless Cults.
Yeah, that one. I'll bring that in too, because figure we'll probably spend a little bit of time kind of trying to figure out a little bit of information. So in that time, might be able to glean something from this book before we start to try and experiment.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, we can definitely do that. So the way these Mythos tomes work in that regard is they have a particular rating themselves that we'll roll against to determine if you can glean something useful as you're leafing through it. So why don't you give me a D100 roll? Oh,
No way.
Uh-oh. Is there a push option on that?
No, that's good in this one. You rolled a critical success,
Oh, is it?
in fact. Yeah.
Okay. Oh, nice.
Okay, so let's you get to narrow this even more because of the critical. What type of specific thing do you think you would want to know? Like maybe because you had tried to manifest light the last time you were in the Dreamlands?
Exactly. I would like to know, I guess, if there's a way to control the dream or to assert your will over something in the dream or others that are in the dream.
Okay. All right. So as you guys are setting up and preparing yourself for rest, you read a story again from this author von Juntz about he had met with a group of druids, they claimed to be, but they brewed a special potion that when you drank it, it would take you to a land far from Earth. And some of what he describes in this initial journey reminds you of your own dream, although curiously, he does not appear before Nosht or Common Thaw. Instead, he talks about a great desert and a city that he comes to called Kupar Nambo that is on the edge of this great sand sea, as he describes it later on. But he mentions interacting with a scholar there who tells him of the place he's at, and he goes into subsequent trips and nights following that. And what he learns is that at this place, he tried to manifest a sword one time to fend off, some animal out in the wild. And it did appear for a short amount of time, but faded quickly. So what he had learned between speaking with this scholar and experimentation is that the way he made more long-lasting items was in his normal dreams, he would focus kind of on creating whatever the item he desired was. So, say, sticking with a sword, he would spend a few nights just in his normal dreams, focusing on a sword until he would go into a dream and have a sword. So, whatever the dream was, this sword would appear there. It would be fixed in his mind. And then when he went on a subsequent journey to Kupar Nambo, he appeared there with a sword. The scholar had said that this city was a shared manifestation, so it was difficult for one person to impose their will on many different people, and thus the construction had to be done in one's own dream. Does that make any sense to you, Whitmire? Do you have any questions?
No, it sounds like you use your own dreams for practice, and then you fix the image of what you're trying to will into the this dream world in your head before you
Right.
actually get there. And
He said once the object, this sword, had appeared like almost naturally in his normal dreams, then it appeared there when he went to next visit Kupar Lambo.
okay,
But that's what you discover.
okay, no, it's good information. It definitely gives me a few different possibilities and some thoughts to test out, or some theories to test out as well.
All right. So what's our next move, gentlemen?
Do you
I'll
want to
Try a pipe of the
Smoke.
dream castle.
Okay. So you smoke up some Dream Castle, and we'll go ahead and have you do it too, Whitmire, even though you succeeded on that. You can still mark it as a check. Okay, so you're passing around the pipe of the Dream Castle tobacco, or you each have your own, and we will begin with Monroe. So
Okay.
your dreaming begins normally, except they are remarkably vivid, and they are of the variety of dreams that you normally dream about. I don't know. What is it? Ever increasing power, or worshiping you? What does Monroe usually dream about?
I don't think I have images of people worshiping me, but probably wandering amongst ancient ruins and
Yeah.
things like that.
Yeah, and then in one case, there's sort of a recreation of being pursued by the Dark Hunter that doesn't go so well. But in all cases, every one of these dream scenes, you see a huge stairway leading enticingly downwards, and it takes a few dreams before you realize that it's common in all of them. And we'll say you're outside, you're standing at the base of a great pyramid, and just there on the side of one sand dune is this stone stairwell, sort of Baroque in construction, a little so out of place with Egyptian architecture.
Okay. And do I begin to have a little bit more of a lucid understanding in my dream? And
Yeah. I can't remember if you guys had discussed the particular details of this, but I suppose for the sake of expediency, we can say that when you guys or when the other two talked about the dream, when Monroe talked about it and Whitmire talked about it, they mentioned this stone stairwell
okay.
that led down.
And I seem to remember I was in a shared dream with Johan when he saw it, and he had kind of described it as well
Right. Yeah.
at that point.
Yeah. There
So
you go.
yeah, I'll take it as that recognition will dawn, and I'll take the stairway.
Yeah. So you descend down these stone steps beneath the sands of Egypt, and you go down 70 steps. You're not sure why you kept count, but you come out into this wide cavern, in the middle of which is a flame that just sort of burns suspended there. And there are two aged individuals wearing robes and Egyptian style crowns. And there's a passage beyond them that also beckons you forward. But this flame and these two men stand in your way, and they look at you expectantly and say, "Enter and be welcome. I am Nosh." And the other one says, "I am Common Thaw. We congratulate you, Mr. Monroe, on finding the way."
And I'll bow in the grandest fashion that I can manage, and say, "Gentlemen, it is my pleasure to have finally met you, and I appreciate your welcome."
"Yes, be welcome. But before you may pass the gates of deeper slumber," and they approach you just in the manner you had heard described by your companions, and they stare deeply into your eyes, and a penetrating gaze, something that sees through all your deceptions and your false airs that you put on occasionally, as we all do. And finally, Nosh says, "You are worthy." And the two priests retreat and bow. And you see suddenly there's an ornate malachite table with some items on top of it that you didn't notice before. And
Okay.
at this time, Whitmire, you manifest in this cavern with the flame and Nosht and Common Thaw, just as they retreat back from Mr. Monroe. Maybe a little irritated because been trying to get out of this forest for quite a while, but perhaps the knowledge of Monroe going through this process was playing in your subconscious, and perhaps that's why you appeared here and not elsewhere. It's difficult to
I
say.
believe that this is also where I needed to start from
Oh,
in
right.
order to follow the directions of that too.
That note, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, so Nosht says these are for you and your journeys to come. He says that to Monroe. The items laid out on the table. You're naked, you realize. So Whitmire, see that as well. But there is a set of clothes in whichever fashion you would imagine them to be, Mr. Monroe.
Okay. Is it something that I would have brought from my waking world, or something that would have manifested while I was here?
Well, it's probably something like in game that would come from, the subconscious of the dreamer. But in this particular case, it's a player directed set of clothes, so you get to choose what they are for Monroe.
Okay. I guess in this case, since like I'm talking to ancient Egyptians, they would come across as like ritualistic robes of some sort.
Okay. Yeah, and they fit as though they are tailored when you don them. And you can see that Mr. Whitmire, he's appeared to you as well, is dressed in a very nice suit. Although there is something surreal and otherworldly about it, it's not quite in the fashion of the day. Also on the table are 3 loaves of bread, a jug of water, and a length of shiny, somewhat crystalline wool.
All right. I'll kind of place him in whatever pouches or bag tied to my sash or whatever.
Okay.
I'll pipe up and say, no, you've got to eat some and drink. That the wool is manna.
And I'll kind of question him a little bit. What do you mean by that?
I don't know quite what that is, but when I ate it, it was the best thing I've ever had. It felt fully refreshed. Definitely recommend that you try some now, though.
All right. I will try a little bit as to his direction.
And I'll pull my own out at the same time and eat some too.
Yeah, so it's as I described to Whitmire, you realize after eating the manna that when you drink normal food drink normal drinks or eat normal food, that you are still not fully satiated, but this, whatever it is, this manna, leaves you completely content in a way you've not experienced. Leaves you with a peaceful feeling and a particular focus on the here and now rather than the concerns of the future or, say, the sins of the past. You are at one with this moment in time. Let's pause here for a minute, rewind just a minute, and give Whitmire's entry into the dream. So, just like Monroe, you started out with your normal dreaming, like the normal dreams Whitmire would have, and you might, after reading that passage in the Nameless Cults, want to try to create something in this dream before you descend down the stone steps. Is that something you wanted to do?
Yes, so and I'm not sure if it will work or not, but when I get into my normal dreams, I want to start just randomly affecting things, right? Like creating light, altering the shape or overall construction of any buildings or trees or anything that's around me, as try and build up whatever type of practice or mental exercises that I would hopefully need in order to alter something in the dream world.
Okay, so let's construct a dream scenario for you here. You are sitting in Drew's basement at a card table, and you're in the midst of a hand of Texas Hold'em style poker. So you're looking at the cards in the river, they're all laid out, and you're looking at the ones in your hand. Also, there are glasses with various drinks, and you don't make out the details outside of the table. You're just sort of vaguely aware of Drew's basement, but they're more shadowy shapes and inaudible noises. You know there's a crowd around you, but you can't make out faces or things like that, or what's playing on the radio initially. So in that dream state, what do you want to pick to try to alter?
So I'm going to start with something that I feel should be easy for me, as I'm going to change the cards that are in the river to suit whatever is in my hand.
Okay. So go ahead and find that dreaming skill and give that a roll. Yeah, so you to your delight, the cards change. What hand are you trying to make?
I'll try for like a straight flush.
Okay. Yeah, you those things seem to materialize without remark from the opponent you're playing against, and they hold fast once you've fixed it in your mind. So yeah, that it works. Seemed to have worked in that case. It does actually drain a magic point from you though. So go to your magic and deduct 1 from it.
So do I see him doing this?
No, I meant to do it before you were both in the dream, so we just rewinded a little bit for him.
Yeah, and if that works, I want to also try and make the light that is already over the table brighter.
Okay.
I figure that starting off, that will be easier than trying to create light out of nothing.
Yeah, same process. It still requires a successful dreaming roll.
Not that time.
Yeah, you can't quite do it. It flickers a little bit, so you know you had some impact on it, that or it was just coincidence. But in dreams, are there really any such thing as coincidences? But it does deduct another magic point from you, despite the failure.
Okay. So yeah, I mean, I'll spend some time. I don't know if you want me to keep rolling, as just trying to change small things. Like, I will try and make we'll do that, like a shotgun up here.
Okay.
Like it's strapped over my back or something, right?
Gotcha.
Or I guess hanging off a strap, maybe like a sawed off or something.
Yeah, so as far as your experimenting goes, we'll say, it would work roughly a quarter of the time by the odds that you have at it. So you realize that, maybe there's still some further practice that needs to be done. But when you go to make the shotgun, it materializes in your hand and it's firm there. You don't have to think about it. You kind of go on to focus at other things. However, the cost it has on you is quite a bit more pronounced than altering the environment. That one costs you 12 magic points.
Jeez.
How many magic points do you have left?
3.
So deduct 2 more just for the other minor alterations that we glossed over, and that's where we'll put you. But so you can kind of feel your energy draining. It doesn't really impact the word I'm looking, the vividness of the dream or anything like that. It's just more like you're getting tired, like mentally exhausted after a while.
Okay.
But yes, you have that shotgun. So now we can go back to the Cavern of Flame. So you did see Mr. Monroe, that when Whitmire appeared, he had a shotgun, hanging off of one shoulder.
Okay.
Do you have a shotgun in your character sheet, John?
That's what I'm checking right now. No, I had the it says rifle, skill rifle shotgun. Okay, it's I think it's that rifle from Peru. Yeah, 30-06.
Well, we'll just use your skill because the damage doesn't even work in the combat thing for shotguns anyways. And if it comes up, I'll just have you roll from the dice tray rather than your sheet.
Okay.
All right. So yeah,
So
go ahead.
Question is, so I pop in, he grabs his clothes and his other stuff, he starts to put it away, and I told him to eat that mana, and then I ate some of mine. Is there anything different that happens?
It does.
Than the first time?
Yeah, it does cause the fog, like the brain fog you have from it. It's like you spent some amount of time in a very thought-intensive endeavor, and when you come out the end of that, you're just a little loopy, a little muddy in your thoughts, or they run in directions that you don't necessarily control. But after you eat that does abate somewhat, and you gain back 1d4 magic points. And I think you're full by now, right, Mr. Monroe?
Yeah, I'd expect so. I got a pretty decent night's sleep after the attack, thanks to or Dr. Andrews.
Right. So yeah, you think you probably have of a portion similar to what you just ate. You might have 10 more times you could do that before the mana is gone.
Okay.
That would be for Mr. You would have 11 or so times Mr. Monroe. Whitmire has 10.
So the amount of mana, does that keep refreshing every time I come in? Like, is the portion any different than it was the first time? Like the size of that?
It's reduced
mana.
from the times you've ate it, but unlike actual food, like when you check your bread, you see the bit that you ate and then you had taken off to feed to the strange little creature in the woods. It is gone, but it doesn't seem like at least this food is expiring in any way. It's just as fresh, with that slightly warm, has been out of the oven for a few hours feel to it, or not hours, but like 30 minutes out of the oven.
Okay, as I want to make mention of that. So, I mean, I'm gonna actually be fairly excited here when I go and catch up with Mr. Monroe, and I'll be holding that shotgun, just kind of palms up, holding it, looking at it, and I'll look at him and just like gesture, offer for him to hold it. There's a big grin on my face, and I'll exclaim, I made this.
Where did you find the resources to make a shotgun?
No, I made it in my mind, and now it's here.
Give me an idea roll, Mr. Monroe, but go ahead and carry on.
An idea roll?
Yeah, that's intelligence.
Okay.
Sorry, the actual paper character sheet says idea next to it. So it's supposed to clue you. I forget that the roll 21 doesn't. So you're wondering if such a phenomenon is possible to recreate in the dream where you are outside the burial mound, because you tried to manifest something there, but it didn't seem to work out.
Yeah, it failed that time.
Yeah, I'll explain some of that process to him. Like, I was having a normal dream before we came here, and I'll tell him about the poker game, and that I was able to change the cards, and I couldn't affect the lighting, like, almost, but then I just made this exist. As I don't know if that quite makes sense, but as I didn't have a shotgun before I thought about having a shotgun. And now here I've got a shotgun.
I've heard of being able to do this during lucid dreaming, although my attempts at it have always failed. Perhaps it was because I was not trying it before I entered the lucid state. I'll have to think about that for the next time. And I suppose Travis, could I try to manifest something simple?
Yes. What did you have in mind?
How about, like I had before, a length of rope?
Okay. Yes, you can definitely try to do that. I have added the dreaming skill to yours character sheet as well, and a dream lore skill. So I will need a successful dreaming skill.
Yeah, I'm not even. Yeah. So no, I'm not able to to manifest it.
Yeah. So when after he concentrates in there and nothing happens, I'll clap him on the shoulder and tell him, "Don't worry, I tried to make light the last time, and nothing even seemed to happen. It's got to have something to do with before you get here, as I don't know if changing things in that before state will let you change things easier here, but it seems like anything that you manifested in that before state carries over to here."
Mr. Monroe, a process has occurred that you're more familiar with than Whitmire, and that is the draining of a magic point. You've experienced it by using Father's Imposed Suggestion a number of times. So So it's curious. You're like you have more of a sense of a draining of your soul or your spirit temporarily. Very or the exact same as when you cast that spell in the material world.
I'll mention that to him, that I feel slightly drained at my attempt, and that it is remnant of being drained by father.
I'll stiffen a little bit when he mentions father, and I'll kind of gruffly just say we're all tired.
Yeah,
Because everybody's tired every day. It doesn't have anything to do with him.
seeing he's upset, I'll say no. I didn't mean that that this is something brought about by father. It feels like I have been, like my spirit, my soul has been drained in a way that is similar to when I was drained by him and his abilities.
As so something that I had left out of my recap of that last stream was that barrier area, and I'll tell him that he's here. He's still locked away here, but he is here.
He is.
As I found, this place isn't easy to navigate. Actually, the reason that I wanted to start back here is because I found a note on a tree that gave some direction to a town where we might be able to get some more information. But the area that I woke up in last time was nowhere near this, as far as I can tell.
Well, if you have directions to a place, then by all means, let's speak as we walk. We are in a dream, and there's no telling how long it'll be until we're awoken.
I'll nod and just point out towards the gate. Say we've got to go this way.
Very well. As you are the one with experience here, lead the way.
All right. So yeah, I'll take the lead there and start going over, describing my experience a little bit in more detail. For the between the first and the second. Like the first, I was able to follow a cleared area. I don't think it was like a road or anything, but just a cleared area where a lot easier to move through. Eventually came to the end of this forest and saw a small village. The second time, after I found Father's, or what I'm assuming to be Father's barrier, I kind of got a little panicked, and I don't know exactly which direction I went, but when I came out of the woods, I was in a different location overlooking the same village. I don't think that's the village that we want, though, as it didn't match up with what I feel the town that it was trying to convey.
Well, either way, I suppose we'll find out once we reach this town, as long as the directions that you received are accurate. In whatever state, though, this is a rather magnificent place.
It is, but just be careful. There's these little things around. There's maybe the animals around here, but they're quite hostile. It seems that last time I was here, as I actually distracted them with some of the bread to make my escape, but I could easily see these things becoming an issue, and I'll pat the shotgun and say, but that's why I've got this now.
Well, in my experience, some of the creatures that you experience in dreams may turn hostile quite easily, and even a weapon such as the one Detective Nichols used on the primates came to no avail because of their numerous hordes. I'll say all that with absolutely no context as to what I'm speaking about.
Yeah, so this conversation's going on as you go through that passageway out of the cavern where the sages were and the suspended flame, and you go down a long set of spiraling steps that just wind ever downward. In this case, you don't necessarily count them, but they are much longer than the initial steps you came down to get here. Monroe, you can give a natural history or an education roll. You can choose one. I guess it doesn't have to be the highest one. If you're going for a skill check, you could try natural history. I already got one from you in a previous dream, Whitmire.
Natural history.
Or botany.
And natural world.
Yeah, that's the one. Sorry about that. I don't know why I typoed that. But yeah, natural world.
Okay. Or an education roll, you said?
Right.
We'll try for a skill upgrade. Nope. I'm just not on top of it this session.
Well, you're just, as you're chatting, you're looking at what you're walking through, and you're wondering what the walls are made of. But beyond some type of wood, you just can't identify it. But in any case, you come to the bottom of these spiraling steps, and there's an elaborate arch that's been cut into the wood with a closed gate that you can easily open. In fact, Whitmire probably does so since he's leading the way. But beyond the gate is a forest made of colossal twisted trees, and you don't see any daylight penetrating the interwoven branches above. The light that is in this forest seems to be coming from bunches of glowing fungus, not unlike the lichen within the serpent folk lair.
Okay. So do these giant mushrooms and trees and stuff remind me of that time when Detective Nichols and I were chased by the hominids, and I survived the fall and then entered into a place where there were giant mushrooms that more of those things came from?
In a way, I mean, this appears to be naturally, like the sense you got from that area in that part of the dream is that that appeared to be cultivated because they were in a little bit more ordered rows, and you'd got this sense of mist being dispersed from somewhere above at intervals.
But was it the same kind of
yeah, very similar.
foliage and okay. So yeah, I'll be kind of surprised at the similarities and comment on how this is similar to the dream from the toad statue.
I'll question that because I don't believe I was there when he explained what was going on with those, because it was after the first dinner that he had with Detective Nichols, and I believe I was on the lam then.
Yeah, so I'll explain what we know of the statues and go over my explorations down into it, which probably also explains what I was talking about with Detective Nichols and creatures attacking us.
Yeah, in the course of, explaining it all, the stark contrast that comes out would be the difference between walking into an area where, say there are a few apple trees as opposed to an apple orchard that somebody's tending to. So here you have glowing fungi of many different types, whereas when you went to that place with the giant stalks, it was the same type over and over again in these sort of ordered rows. So you could definitely assure yourself that you're not in the same place, but perhaps it's connected here in some fashion.
Some sort of common ancestry or something along those lines.
But your story or your reminiscing is broken when you hear a fluttering, almost like a flute-like noise, sort of close up in the trees. Whitmire, you know that these noises belong to those strange rodents. And then somewhere distant, you hear a faint gibbering sound, but that goes quiet.
Had I heard that before?
You remember hearing it. You don't know to what creature or thing it belongs to. Never revealed itself, unless it's just an alternate noise that these rodents make.
Okay. So yeah, I'll tell them that to be on your guard, keep an eye out, as the last time I encountered one of these things, it definitely could seem like it could get overwhelming pretty quick.
Does the sound remind me of those hominids that I ran into?
No, not really. Okay. It's a little bit more furtive. In the way you can kind of tell that a sound comes from a big creature or a little creature, or, they have different vocal qualities to them. This doesn't evoke, even though the hominids were smaller than you, they were bigger than these sounds. Whatever images pop up in your mind, seem like
Okay.
much smaller creatures. But you can see again that there's this pathway between the twisted trees, not even quite a game trail, but just a way that you can move forward without climbing over anything.
Would I be able to do like a navigate to try and find any other signs that we are heading? I believe we needed to head west.
Yeah.
Isn't that what that note had said? Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead and throw your navigate out.
I'll use luck on that.
Okay. Yeah, so you can determine that this path is the one that you went on the very first time you came into the dream, and you know that it leads in a west direction, and it should exit the forest near those cottages and farms you saw in both cases. But this would bring you out of the forest as you did the first time.
Okay. So I guess feeling a little bit more confident, knowing that I've been in this area before, I'm gonna try and set a not like a grueling pace, but definitely a quicker pace to try and get through this area, and mainly talking to myself as that maybe that little village is where we're supposed to go, or maybe there's another forest, or just kind of go off like that for just a bit.
Yeah, Mr. Monroe, you find that what ailed your physical body does not seem to come here, except in sort of a phantom twinge when you go to check yourself. You realize you're walking along without difficulty, and you're like, "Oh, my ribs," and you'll have like this phantom twinge, but then it's gone, and you feel healthy. But
I'm going to be very happy about that after spending the entire day in pain.
But your path takes you around one of these twisted oaks, and when you come around the tree, you see sitting on one of the roots that is poking up out of the ground is one of these little rodent-like creatures. They're small and brown. They have these small tentacles that dangle from their snouts, and they kind of wriggle out as though they're testing the air. And it sees you guys as you see it, and it sort of lifts one claw that isn't like a paw that you would be seeing on a rat, but more like a hand, as it has defined fingers, and it's sort of scratching at the air and looking at you, Mr. Whitmire.
As I'll reach into my pocket and grab some bread. As I'll break off a piece for myself and a couple smaller pieces and toss it off into the forest.
Actually, before we do that, I missed this the first time. There is a minor sanity hit to see these things, so we'll get a sanity roll from both of you.
Do we do that every time that we see them?
I missed having you do it the very first time, but no, you don't do
It's
it
all
every
right.
time you see it.
We've seen some stuff before.
Yeah, there's
Yeah.
no fat larva. Yeah, so
Or Dark Hunter.
Yeah.
the thing that would be unsettling is not its tentacled appendages, it's more the human-like
It's the
qualities.
hands.
Right,
Yeah.
But, you guys are kind of inoculated to this because you're both thinking, even though this seems someplace different than your dreams, it still has dreamy qualities. So, rodents with hands is not outside the realm of possibility, at least here. So it doesn't disturb you too much. But it darts down and grabs this morsel and picks it up, and these tentacles sort of move out of the way of the eating process, and you can see it has very, needle-like teeth, and it bites at it, nibbles at it, and then it runs off around the tree, and it's disappeared out of sight for a moment, but it turns back around and looks at you with very intelligent gaze, and it beckons at you with those hands.
And I'll say, well, that's new. Do you want to follow it?
I've had bad luck interacting with things, but it is a dream, and we are, I suppose, explorers here, so may as well.
Well, I guess we'll just have to be on our guard, and I'll reach into my. Well, actually, I'll ask. Did you have a knife on that altar as well?
He did, Mr. Monroe. Yeah,
Okay.
you did as well.
As I'll tell him that he might want to keep that easily accessible then, and I'll start off after it.
I'll say, oh, I will, but dealing with weapons is not exactly where my strong suits lay. As I follow him, but stay behind him and his shotgun.
Yeah, as if anything comes at us from behind, just hold the pointy end out.
Okay.
I'll do my best.
So you go off the small path in pursuit of this little rodent, and it stops every now and then to make sure that you are indeed behind it. The pickings are a little bit more difficult, but not outside of either of your ability. And you begin to hear the bubbling sound of water, like maybe a tiny brook or stream. But also, I will need a listen roll from both of you.
Oof.
Oh, wow.
Nice.
Okay, so you freeze for a moment, Monroe, because you hear what it kind of sounds like a wild cat's yowl, but much more subtle than that. It's the same sort of quality, this sound that is coming from the back of some throat somewhere, but it has a more bass to it. And you can see why when you perhaps ask Whitmire what that was, if he looks confused, why you might have missed it over the sound of your travel. Whitmire, of course, you didn't hear it, and you didn't quite fumble, so you're in the clear there. You just didn't hear the sound.
Okay.
But I can say, Monroe, that you do not like it one bit.
Okay. Is it in the direction, or can I point to a direction that it came from?
It appears to be coming from wherever this rodent is leading you.
Okay. Yeah, I'll tell Whitmire to have his shotgun ready, because whatever it is leading us to may not be something we want to see.
So, if we were heading west, which direction did we cut off to follow this thing?
Off to the north.
Okay. So, well, you know what? I think we've made a terrible mistake. As if I'm recalling correctly from that letter now, I think it specifically mentioned to ignore these things.
Oh, in like a nervous quality. I mean, I suppose we should probably leave slowly back to the path.
Yeah, and I'll start backpedaling a little bit, watching that thing. Just keeping an eye out behind us.
Okay, so all I want is a navigate roll from both of you. I'm not even really looking for success. We're just checking for fumbles. You haven't gone far off the path, so.
All right. If anyone's gonna fumble, it'll be me. No.
See, look at that.
Oh my goodness.
We both know where we're going.
I was apparently paying very close attention in case I had to run away.
Yeah, you are both able to navigate back to this trail, and that's an exaggeration of what it would be, and you are back on it traveling west. And, after a bit of travel, you do come to the edge of the forest, and there you see the cottages and a conglomeration of more buildings closer together, further in the distance, and beyond that great giant peak. And unfortunately, guys, I am out of time. I keep getting
we get right to the edge of the forest.
But in this case, I promise you we will pick it up first thing in our next session.
As I was going to say to Monroe, like, from this point, we have to run because
Sure.
I never make it past here.
Yeah, so
thanks, though, Travis. It was fun.
Yeah, thanks for playing, guys. Appreciate it, and we will catch you all next time. We'll go ahead and do those luck rolls and skill rolls.
Okay, luck. Dang. Now I start getting these hard successes. Okay, so luck was a no. We'll try I got my listen and my.
This has been a Death Watch production. Thank you for listening.